Cal Poly matched the 25-year-old NCAA record for consecutive three-pointers at 11. Head coach Joe Callero, questions, guys?
When did you know that, Coach, that you had matched the record? You didn't know it going into the second half, did you?
I did know going into the second half. When I looked at the stat sheet and we were 11 for 11, I said, oh my goodness. I said, I've never been around a team as a coach or a player that's made 11 in a row. So we were happy about that. We walked down the court, and the sideline reporter for the television crew came up to me and said, hey, Coach, did you know that you make one more three-pointer, you set an NCAA record? And I said, hey, did you know that we will guarantee not to make the next one? Have you ever heard about not talking about a no-hitter? You can't break a no. And then they also, our stat crew handed stats to him at the start of the game, and somebody else mentioned it to one of the assistant coaches. So we were all like, well, let's just get a good shot. Let's not worry about setting records as much as getting a good offensive possession. And then all of a sudden, Amari had one and went out, and then David Hanson made the next one. We're like, well, I guess that's over with. But I just want to, our defense is still what we hang our hat on. But I shifted and I became the offensive three-point shooting coach this week. Yesterday, I put some special lessons in there and showed them how to shoot the basketball. Something I've really been working on and saying, this is how you do, this is how you shoot the basketball. And so, for those who say that, Cal Poly is just too defensive oriented, well, we've tied an NCAA record for three-point shooting, so now I guess we can get those monkeys off our back.
When you guys were going banana, how much of that do you think was just outstanding offensive execution? And you were playing a young team, but do you think it had more to do with you guys just freeing each other up for looks?
Well, I thought we did that for 20 minutes the first half of Long Beach State, who is has demonstrated that they are an elite, Big West team and a national contender. And we figured if we could do that at Long Beach State, we've got to be able to adjust and be able to do that against anybody else, improve our inside-out game. And basically, we tweaked a couple things offensively. Just when the ball goes in the post, we're not moving as much, so our guys are more set, more stable. Their footwork's are set up a little bit earlier. So that was big for us. That was really big that we felt like we played such a great first half against Long Beach, and they came back and were phenomenal. And our point was, Casper Ware was phenomenal the other night. He made 4 or 5 threes in a row. I think he hit 4 in a row. And why can't we do that? He doesn't have the blueprint on making consecutive shots or shooting the ball well. And anybody is capable of being a good shooter. If you're on balance, you're on rhythm, you're positive, and you help one another. And I think guys they really believe that. They really believe that we can be a great team. We believe we're a very good team, a very good defensive team, but we're an improving and emerging offensive team. And the word spurtability we've used over and over. I think now we're talking about the second time. We've had some explosions, and now we want that explosion to be just more consistent from game to game, from half to half, and that's what we had 2 halves of it this evening.
How will you look to sustain this against Pacific and Davis next week?
Well, it's hard to project how we're going to be able to sustain it, because in college basketball, one thing that you really see is great coaches who've spent a lot of time in the game. And you're not talking about, first-year head coaches that are, coming off the high school, junior college level. You're talking about guys who've coached years. And there's a chess match. There's an adjustment to an adjustment to an adjustment. And what we did the first 7, 8, 10 games was effective. Then we had to make some adjustments. Now we're basically in phase 3 of offensive adjustments, how teams were defending our post. We countered it with some movement, some different type actions on the perimeter to get us more open on the perimeter. So, I'm not sure exactly how the pendulum swings. The next team, the next game will present a different set of issues. And so we just, sustaining it is the most important thing is, are we going to sustain our defense and our rebounding? And that keeps you in there as you learn to adjust to the next adjustment that they've made defensively.
Coach, one game after losing to Long Beach State, what does it feel like having such a dominant performance?
Well, it felt like what I'd been preaching to our team, what I'd been preaching to supporters was, when you have a tough round of golf and you miss a couple birdie putts and the ball rolls out, and you might be 2 under, or you thought you should be 2 under, and you're even or you're 2 over. If you just stay with it, you might find out you get a hole in one. And all of a sudden you make up some strokes here and there. It felt like tonight we got a hole in one. It felt like tonight was, it wasn't any more than one victory, but the way we played defensively and offensively, it felt like it was, making up a couple strokes. It felt very therapeutic to be that efficient defensively and that explosive offensively for 2 halves. What I liked most in the game was the fact that we scored 43 in the second half. Against a team that was obviously going to come out with a lot of vinegar. Bobby Braswell is one of the best coaches on the West Coast. Has been in the school for 15 years. He's brought numerous teams to the NCAA tournament. They're a little young at some of the positions right now, but they still have 3 very good seniors on that team as well, leading them. I have a ton of respect for Coach Braswell, and we were fully prepared for a team that was going to come rushing at us. And we were prepared to go say, look, we got to continue to score. We got to continue to be efficient offensively. And in fact, we went 57-43. We didn't expect that we were going to go get 50 or 55 again. I mean, we're not going to go make 11 for 11 in the second half and make 22 in a row. But I thought we did still take good shots, hit good shots. We're in rhythm. We're in rhythm. The team was in rhythm, and that's what you look for, is that growth of rhythm.
And against that very same team, you set the NCAA record. What does it feel like to be etched in the record books?
Well, I always thought that maybe if I ever made etched in the record book, it'd be something defensively. I figured we'd be a team that held somebody to missing 22 3-pointers in a row or something like that. But I think what it does show is that our team is coachable. They're willing to look at both sides of the ball, and I think our coaching staff is developing in the sense that, hey, we know what we can be a great defensive team and hold people under 60 on a regular basis, and also improve in on the offensive end. And that kind of is a nice little pat on the back. And you say, okay, great, we're in that book, we're in that NCAA book for something. And it's an exciting part of the game. That 3-point line went in. That somebody mentioned the stat they said it's 25 years since somebody's made that 11 row. Funny thing, the 3-point line has only been in for 25 years. So somebody made it the very first year, because I graduated in '86, and I never played college basketball with the 3-point line. And I started coaching. I never coached a game without the 3-point line in. So I know that this is, starting something. You go like, well, wait, 25 years ago, that's when the line went in. So it must have been the first year. The line went in, somebody hit 11 for 11. So interesting.
Happened twice that first year.
It happened twice the first year.
Well, that first year, remember, there was a short line. It went into the...
Well, thank you. We have the new NCAA record for the 3-point line. Well, let's get that out there. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So I'm looking for a lottery ticket now too, I guess.
You talked a lot about Audister at the beginning of the year and how he was kind of getting his legs back. With a game like he shot tonight, I think 4 or 5 from behind the arc, and getting more and more minutes throughout the Big West season. What's that mean to you and your team and your rotation?
Well, I think you saw a little bit what it means. Dylan Royer, we all know, can absolutely knock down shots. And when you take Dylan out and you got a guy like Kyle coming in, the opponents suddenly have got to go, oh boy, here's a knockdown shooter. And with Kyle, I projected the whole time it's going to take him 3 months. It's going to be a month just to get the rust off, a month to try to get some time and conditioning. He has missed 16 months of basketball, not 8 or 9 months from knee surgery. He's a year and a half of basketball. And we all know he can score it. Everybody calls him buckets. He scores the bucket. He calls himself buckets. But we wanted him to get back in the flow defensively, learn our system, get his confidence, get his conditioning. And obviously tonight he showed that he can do that. And he's done a nice job for us a couple other games. He came in at Fresno State, knocked down 2 or 3 threes for us too. So having another weapon and developing that bench. Now we've developed 2 sophomores. You got Chris Eversley coming off the bench, giving us 19 points. And you got Kyle Audister coming off the bench, giving us 14 points. So development of the team, development of the bench, and development of the young players is part of a program approach, not a game or season approach.
Talk about the second half in a game that gets 30, 40 points ahead. How easy would it have been to get sloppy, and what do you tell your guys to kind of prevent, especially when the other team's pressing, to prevent that?
Well, it was actually, I really enjoyed the fact that they were pressing and they were going to try to make it a real messy game and make us handle the basketball. We really wanted to try to do is keep the turnovers down to single digits. I was hoping that we would. I think we had 11 assists and 4 turnovers at half, and I thought that, and we knew they would come out much more aggressive and press and trap as much as possible to try to make a comeback. But then we ended up with 9 turnovers in the second half, and that was the disappointing part about it. Is I still feel like for 20 minutes, I don't care how much pressure there is, we've got to be able to take care of that basketball. And there's 3 or 4 situations where we weren't strong with the ball, we didn't look up court quick enough, we didn't make 2 quick passes, and so that's good. It helps us to go to film session on Monday. We're going to give the guys a day off Sunday, and then we come back on Monday and look at how to get better against that.
Any other questions, guys?
Coach, I've heard you drop so many golf metaphors. Are you a big golfer?
No, it's funny you brought that up. I have golf metaphors because I'm a terrible golfer, and I golf about 2 or 3 months a year. I golf probably 5 or 6 times in June for these fundraisers for people. July I don't golf at all because we're recruiting, and I enjoy golf, but I only get out about 10 or 12 times a year, and I usually in July and August. But I have brothers that are golfers, a lot of fundraisers involved with golfing. And the reason that's interesting you brought that up, and I'll tell you a side note why I use golf as a metaphor. An old coach told me about 10 years ago when I kind of started picking up golf, he said, when you get frustrated with the players, don't think about basketball. He said, I want you to, and he was a great golfer, and he'd taken me out to this golf tournament. And he watched me golf, and I shoot 96, and I'm frustrated, and I'm hitting one in the water, and one off tee, and one there. And I mean, I can be respectable and shoot an 86, but for the most part, I don't practice, and I don't play enough. And he says, when you get frustrated with your team, you get frustrated with the player, you think about when you're golfing. Because now you can relate to it. You can have that analogy to relate to something. Because if I think about everything as in basketball terms, I have all the answers. I've spent 25, 35 years of my life with basketball. Why don't you just do this? Just look up court, do that. I just have that. You know, I'm on warp speed with basketball, so it's hard for me to relate to players making mistakes. When I think about golf, I think, man, I'm not that good. So when I'm over the ball, I'm not so sure I'm going to make a great, miss a 6-foot putt. So when a player misses a free throw, it's like me missing a 6-foot putt. I'm not going to make every single putt. So you understand that players, when they make mistakes, I think about golf. You know what? You're not a pro golfer. These guys aren't pros. They're developing college kids. And so it helps me understand the mistakes that people make as players. It understands me to understand the big picture of, like, great golfers don't get too high or low. All right, you put one in the water, you blew up 2 strokes. Well, you got to come back and make par, maybe get a birdie here later on. And you can't ruin your whole round because you lost, 4 strokes in the first 4 holes. And if you look at it from that way, then it helps me have a better understanding and more comfort zone. It's very perceptive of you because the golf analogy really came from a coach that helped me kind of shift my mindset to understand kids. And it's not about coaching. I don't coach basketball. I coach these 12, 13 guys. Those are human beings. So when a guy misses a shot, makes a play, forgets a play, misses a block off, those are real people. They're not robots, and so it helps you go like, you know what? Think about you. You're golf. I can't take my 9-iron and put it within 6 feet every single time, with backspin to bring it close to the cup. And those guys are unbelievable. But I can make once out of 3 times, I make a pretty good shot. And then so it makes you more understanding in so many ways. Actually, even in the 10th, I said, hey, Phil Mickelson, he went to a lot of majors for ever winning one. And I said, hey, I felt like the last 6 weeks. We had St. Mary's here. We didn't win it. We had Santa Barbara here. We didn't win it. We had Long Beach here. We didn't win it. It was some really close games. Think how many times Mickelson went. And if you don't know golf, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. But Mickelson went to the championship rounds many times. Lost to Tiger. Lost his couple of years before, hey, break through the door. Kick the door down. And that's what we're kind of looking for. It's like, hey, we'll stay with it. And you're certainly not going to kick it down if you're hanging your head or you're listening to people saying, you choked and this and that. And we're out there playing. This is real life. This is not some sitcom that ends up with a happy ending every time. This is real life. Basketball is real life. Real life people, real life pressure, real life expectations, and that's what makes sports so good. It's real life TV. So kudos to the recognition on that.